Hello friends, I'm Artizi, and today is a special episode. Today I am joined by Doctor Heinous, who has volunteered to do one of these stories. We have 3 stories for you today, all by the same wonderful author, Artizi. Links in the description below. It's a dangerous business following your feet. It's a dangerous business following your feet. There's a voice your conscious mind cannot hear, but your unconsciousness sure notices it. Every second of every day, it calls to you. It calls to us all. It's a voice as ancient as time itself. A voice that lurks us into darkness, to its lair. Every city on earth has a corner no one should walk into. A place where screams go unheard and pain is no longer a feeling, but the only reality. People shrug at the crime rates around these areas and choose to make up excuses to feel safe. It's a bad neighborhood, they say. But do they hear the strange laughter whenever blood is spilled? Do they notice the eyes lurking in the shadow, always staring, always alert? No, they don't. And neither do you. If you were lucky enough, you'll remain blind and deaf to such horrors. Only your unconscious mind will ever know about it, and so this entity remains a mystery, an invisible sneer. You'll feel goosebumps in your arms, but blame your wild imagination. There's nothing staring at you from that dark corner, right? But what happens if one day your conscious and unconscious mind merge at the wrong time? What happens if your sanity begins to slip and you get a glimpse of the creature as old as time itself? You will finally hear its voice then, loud and clear, calling to you, hissing and whispering commands. It knows your name. It has always known your name. You'll know something terrible is about to happen whenever you hear it laugh. And no matter how far you run, you'll always find it, for it hides in every city, town, and village men inhabit. It feeds on our hatred, our violence, our crimes. It tastes our spilled blood, even from a distance. It lurks, it waits, and it tempts us. It has nothing but time in its hands, and if you let your feet guide you, they will lead you to it. Are you ready to meet the being lurking in the depths of your nightmares? Just close your eyes and walk. Meredith felt sick. Meredith felt sick. This has been happening with increasing frequency as of late, and she did not like it. It did not feel like the kind of sick that happened when one was pregnant. She had read books and watched videos about pregnancy symptoms, and none of it included this. It was as though the child inside her was eating her up. She wanted it out, but first, she needed to throw up. She was standing at the back of the church in a pew, right beside the door in case she needed to make a quick exit. It was a Saturday night service for the people who could not make it in for the Sunday morning one, so the stained glass windows were dark. Ahead of her was a smattering of people spread across the rows of benches, all with heads bowed to their individual hymn books. Meredith had one in her hand too, but she put it down and stepped out of the pew. She made for the stairs to the basement where the restroom awaited her. She stepped inside, heaving and retching, one hand on her swollen belly as she bent over the toilet. When she had finished, she flushed and moved to the sink. She looked at herself in the mirror, hands firmly planted on either side of the sink. She could hear the singers upstairs, but the hymn was ending, and as the final note played, the lights went out. There was a moment of darkness where all she could hear was her breathing. Then, faintly, she heard a second breath take place, one that did not match her own. It was deeper, like the huff of an animal. She whirled around as the emergency lights clicked on, neon red. She fully expected another person to be in the room with her. When she saw that nothing was there, she looked back at the mirror and stumbled backwards. There was a thing behind her in the mirror, seemingly floating in the air. It was pink and fleshy, twisted and mangled. She looked at it closer, and it appeared to be a fetus, but for a creature she had never seen before. Words spilled from its mouth. She couldn't tell what it was, but it was moving in a way that suggested a mouth.
"Kill me,"
it rasped.
"Kill me."
Another wave of biliousness and pain swept over her. Her knees weakened, but she stood standing. The thing rotated its bulbous head towards her, speaking again.
"I must not be born."
Meredith shook her head. "I can't," she cried. What she meant, she did not herself know.
"Then I will kill us both."
The lights flickered, and the thing moved towards the mirror and her. Meredith screamed. The creature passed through the mirror and into her open mouth. She tried to close her mouth around the fetus, stopping it, but it squirmed inside. She could feel it wriggle its way down her throat, and she passed out. Meredith could not tell how long she had been lying on the ground of the restroom. The floor was sticky, damp, and impossibly warm. She tried to sit up but struggled. Her whole body was covered in sweat. She turned into the fact that someone was knocking on the door. "Come in," she rasped, remembering that it was not locked. The door creaked open and in stepped the pastor. He surveyed the room in shock. Meredith looked about as well and realized that she was lying in a pool of blood. In fact, there was blood pretty much everywhere. The pastor whispered that he would go and find help. Meredith nodded and laid back down, too tired to go anywhere. Her belly felt empty, and she realized that the thing in the mirror had failed to kill her, that it had killed itself in the process.
For as long as mankind has existed, the need for answers has hounded their lives. Sometimes the questions we make ourselves are existential, dealing with our own mortality, the afterlife, and the meaning of life itself. Sometimes we need solutions to our own problems. Whatever the case, and only if you're desperate enough for answers, there is a ritual you can resort to. Just remember, knowledge is a powerful tool, and whoever wields it may demand a high cost to offer the answers you search for. This is a game you can play for as long as you wish to, but once you put a stop to it, you can never go back to playing it, so be careful with your decisions along the way. Surprisingly, you won't have to start this ritual in the dead of night, or a minute before midnight. You won't need candles or an offering of blood. Not at first, at least. The being answering your questions might demand it, in time. What you'll need is a single drawer in your room no one but you has access to, and a great deal of patience. This drawer will need to remain locked for exactly a month, with a single piece of paper folded inside. In it, you will write in your own handwriting, "Ancient One, I have questions, and I'm willing to pay the price for your answers." That's all you have to do to begin playing. Simple, right? Well, it's about to get far more dangerous, believe me. After the month is over, you'll open the drawer. Make sure you're alone in the room when you do it. If the piece of paper is torn apart, close the drawer immediately. I'd recommend you throw away the piece of furniture it was in. But if you want to risk your life, just keep it around. It's up to you. Just don't tell me I didn't warn you. If the piece of paper is still folded, your offer has been denied, but the creature you contacted is not angry at your request. You may try again in a month's time. If instead the piece of paper is unfolded, and you can read your own handwriting on it without having to touch it, your invitation has been accepted. The Ancient One is ready to play. Remember, always remember, every single answer will come at a cost. The problem is you won't know what the cost is until after the reply arrives. As you would imagine, a small question will carry a small cost. Do you want to know if it'll rain the next day? Don't worry about having to pay a high price for that piece of knowledge. The process is simple. Each night before bedtime, write your question on a piece of paper, fold it, and place it in the drawer, making sure to lock it afterwards. In the morning, simply open it once more and your answer will be there, written down in your own handwriting. With it, however, you'll find instructions. Sometimes the Ancient One will simply ask you a question, which you must answer in the same way you make your own inquiries. Sometimes it will demand you to fulfill an action of their liking. It might be small and inconsequential, like picking up every object you've touched with your left hand. If that's the case, consider yourself lucky. Remember though, once you have your answer, you can't deny the cost demanded. It's a very bad idea to think you can avoid paying the price after you've made a deal. The game must be played every single night for it to continue. You may end it at any given time by just placing a last piece of paper, thanking the Ancient One for their answers. They will, however, demand a final sacrifice from you. Remember to follow through, no matter how painful or strange. If you are concerned you'll have questions in the future that will go unanswered, don't worry. You can keep on playing indefinitely. Just be ready to always pay the price. It may be odd to jump around on one foot for an entire hour, but just do it. Be careful making complicated life-changing questions, though. The cost will be steep indeed. The Ancient One loves blood, after all, and you don't want them asking for more than a few drops, believe me. Now, the last warning before you begin playing. The final demand will be harder to fulfill the longer you play the game. If you give up after a single night, don't expect much to happen. But can you truly give up on your source of endless answers that fast? Don't you want to know when and how you'll die? While we're all here, don't you want to discover when you'll find true love? Or the numbers to the lotto winning ticket? The Ancient One can help you obtain them all.
For a price.
I hope you folks enjoyed these stories. Again, special thanks to Doctor Heinous. Link to his YouTube channel in the description below. Have a nice night.